Hello and welcome back to the Portadown preview show. We're on Series 2, Episode 9. This week, we are once again rejoined by Dave Wiggins after his 1 week sabbatical. Dave, how are you?
I'm okay. It was tough negotiations last week, to be honest. To tell you the truth, the Glenavon media boys were looking me across, and I was just negotiating a fee, but they came up short, so I'm back. So listen, thanks for that 50 quid more a week. I really appreciate
it. Well, we've certainly splashed the cash out this week as we have a top guest in Stephen Crawford joining us for the second time this season as we are facing Coleraine this Saturday. Stephen, how are you keeping?
Keeping well, thanks, Neil. And I think this is my hat-trick appearance, so I'm well chuffed with that. Hopefully get the ball off you on Saturday now.
I hope you're not getting paid. I hope you're not getting paid more than I am for being on here. Probably the same. Probably the same.
Agent, I think.
Hi, he's crap.
Well, here, listen. Going into this podcast, I'm in a good mood. It's been a pleasing week for Portadown. And we're better to kick off than the Oval on Saturday. Portadown coming away with a 2-2 draw, a battling performance with 10 men. Dave, I'm sure you were a happy bunny on Saturday.
Well, mixed reaction. I took two small children to the Oval on Saturday, so that was new for me. My 5-year-old daughter came for the first time. But tell you what, she loved it. Like, I at one stage I said to her, "Do you want to watch something on my phone?" She's like, "No. Where's Lee Bonus?" She's just like, "Where's Lee Bonus?" Oh, I think I have her brainwashed well and truly already. But it was a good day on Saturday. I sort of came away then, and especially when I watched the highlights again, we actually could have beat them, Neil, as far as I'm concerned, really. But I think overall, yeah, draw, fair result, satisfying result. You go to the Oval there, and for many, many years that was just the game you looked forward to, and the bus journey you looked forward to, and the atmosphere and the singing and all of that. And I suppose that has waned in the last 4 or 5 years, but I sort of feel like it's slowly. Although we played them in the Irish Cup 5th round a couple of years ago. And that was pretty good. So I sort of feel that that's slowly coming back, and my blood was definitely boiling a couple of moments as well. So it was a really enjoyable game. Obviously, I mean, I did think we'd get at least a point down there, and we did. But it was really just great and the manner of the late equaliser was really great as well, apart from Lee smashing his shoulder up and all that. But funny, there was Neil, I forget his surname, Neil from Moira anyway. All right, Neil. He was sitting across from me, and I was sort of saying, Glentoran defence, even though they're quality players, Luke McCullough, Rolls Royce, all of that, it all seems to be a wee bit laboured back there. They look like they're so confident on the ball, but they're not rushing passes, and they're not rushing to like lamp the ball up the pitch. And I sort of said to him, Adam Sally and Lee Bonus both, they were just missing out on nicking the ball by a split second. It was happening over and over again. And in the end, we did catch them late. Defence sleeping a wee bit, goalkeeper flapping a wee bit, and we did get the equaliser in the end. So thoroughly satisfying. And when the boos rang out around the Oval, sure, it was doubly satisfying, if I'm allowed to say that.
Of course you are. So we'll bring Stephen in here. Stephen, simple question. What is going on at the Glens this season?
I don't know. I think that's $100 million question. I mean, it just seems to be something not right.
Apparently that's how much Ali Poor invested as well, 100 million. So,
well, just reading there tonight, apparently that group's looking to invest in Dundalk now too as well. So that could be implications. I don't know if that's going to have anything to happen at the Oval, but I know last year they got off to a very poor start, and then they sort of hit the ground, and they were a very, very difficult side to play against and very strong defensively. This year they look not very strong at the back at all. They're conceding some very, very poor goals. I don't know. There just seems to be something. And after what happened against Coleraine the previous week, and the situation with Aaron McCarry and Mick's dealing with the media, I thought when you say something over and over again, you're always trying to convince yourself more than anybody else, So look, only they know what's going on in the camp. But I'd say they've been hoping they've been better off at this stage of the season than they are. Like, it's putting more pressure on them as the weeks go by.
I think if it doesn't work out for Mick, he could join Sinn Féin, or the SDLP, or Alliance, or any other political party, because his post-match interviews are just the same message over. Although until after Saturday, I have to say, he did change a little bit and sort of said, we weren't at it and we weren't good enough and that kind of thing. But I am sure he gets that sense that the old Glentoran crowd aren't buying the sort of rhetoric week in, week out. And, we mention the forums on here quite often, but when, half 5, I was straight on the forums. Like, it's meltdown week after week on the Glentoran forum.
Yeah,
now. So
I think once the fans then start to build that, because obviously this year was always going to be the pressure season, I felt, because it spent so much and they built this squad together, and it hasn't really clicked at the moment. And the fans will soon let them know about it. The only problem is obviously Mick's tied in with the investors. So how do you lose one and not the other? Like, not saying the man deserves to be sacked, but if it goes on much longer, people will start to question that there. So it's going to be an interesting few weeks coming up at the Oval.
I think it depends how you hear the ins and outs of maybe how the thing is set up. So it's like, Did Mick phone Mick on Monday and say, can you meet me in the boardroom for a wee chat here or what? Because it seems to be that he is he's the link to the money. He's also the manager, and he's running the club off the pitch as well. So it's a complicated one, really, and it remains to be seen what happened. But what you said, I honestly thought Glentoran would be title contenders this year, right up there with Linfield and maybe one or two other teams, and it obviously might well still come. All of a sudden, it might quality players there, so it might gel all of a sudden. But you get the sense there that it's not just 100% all happiness, and it remains to be seen how that plays out over the next wee while. Neil, you've got a bit of a smile on your face there.
No, you're talking about Mick McDermott there, and I find his post-match interviews very entertaining. But Stephen, as a sports reporter, Mick McDermott must be an absolute dream for you guys.
I've said it since the Commander League. Like, Mick will always give you sound bites. The worst thing is after a match.
You've heard him, so he must be.
Yeah, and the worst thing is you have a manager that will say nothing after a game, because you're obviously looking for quotes. But Mick will sit and he'll chat, and he's very open and honest with the media, which is good. And obviously he's experienced in dealing with that situation. But as fans, you want results on the pitch. You know what I mean? And I think the problem is that if you can see something's building, as supporters, you say, well, fair enough, you'll get by time. But whenever there has been a big investment, fans just want to see it straight away on the pitch. And the Glens don't seem to be any closer this season at this stage. Now, as Dave says, this might change in the next few weeks. He could go on a run and maybe win 7-8 games, be right back up there. But at the minute, I'm sure it's a very frustrating place to be if you're a Glentoran supporter.
I'm not going to lie, I absolutely love going to the Oval and getting the result. I absolutely love it. Just from I was a kid and all, it's just the hatred I have for Glentoran.
There's a real bad sort of air between the two clubs always been there, like, the rivalry there.
Do you know what one of the best things that happened on Saturday was? About 15 minutes before the end of the match, the rain came on. So we were shooting, Portadown was shooting down to the end we were standing at. I was already under the shade, and the fans were sort of out, sprinkled around. Neil, where you and your dad and your brother were out there. And then the rain came on, and everybody moved in and sort of gathered down at the front. And there was atmosphere, plenty of singing the whole match. But I sort of felt like that gave the wee push on, just let the players know, we're here, we're willing you on as much as possible, and
I saw your wee man running around, leading the chance at the front. He was in amongst it, running about.
I said to him on the way home, son, did you hear any? Did you learn any new words today or anything, or did you hear anything? Did you hear anything you want to ask me about? And he sort of looked at me and smirked and said, no. That was that.
He was running around with a bottle of Buckfast in his hand as well.
He certainly wasn't. He certainly wasn't. But no, but that's what I'm saying. Whenever the crowd came in and the boys moved down to the front instead of hovering up at the back, he was, there's 4 or 5. It's basically the ball boys from Shamrock Park. They all sort of gathered beside them, and they're getting to that age where they're really enjoying that wee bit of atmosphere and getting involved in it. So they had a good day out as well. He had a sickener. I think his last time at the Oval was, dare I mention, the 2015 Irish Cup final. So that was a right sickener. So let's move on from that very, very quickly. But here, Stephen, didn't Coleraine score late against Glentoran as well?
Yeah, Coleraine scored, I think it was the 80th minute. So like for 2 weeks in the trot there, that's a bit of a kick in the teeth. But I watched your highlights back from the VR Porch TV, and I don't know who was standing beside the camera, but they were getting very, very excitable when the second goal went in. But it was good to see. But I thought it was well worth it. Like the chances he's created, like Ross McClenaghan pulls off a cracking save. There's two. That was Mark Beattie, by the way, on not on commentary. All right, Mark, and Chris Lavery goes through and he goes past the defence, and the ball, he just doesn't wait for it to drop. He volleys it, but it's kind of rushed. It just goes over the bar, and then literally 5 minutes later, I think Sammy McLeod has a shot. It hits the post. That's right.
And Lavery again hits it, and the keeper just gets a wee the left hand nick and take it away. So there was chances there as well. It actually gave me a real. We're still lingering at the bottom section of the table there, but it gave me hope that we can. You sort of look at your Dungannons and Carricks and Warren points and go, those are the teams that we need to take points of. But there we are, going to the Oval and getting a point. And it'll feel like a bit of a bonus point, and you can have that one. You can have that one. That's been used about 1 million times, but it gives you that hope then that when Linfield, we're going to Coleraine here on Saturday, and I have every faith that we could get a point, or if Coleraine have an off day, there's just. Coleraine are obviously in a very good run, but they're not going to win every match every week, and then we've got Linfield coming. We're away to Cliftonville before that, maybe, and then Linfield at home. So I've sort of gone from sort of hoping we play well to okay, there's points there for the taking now, so it gives me a wee bit of faith and hope that we will climb the table, maybe a position or two over the next couple of months.
Dave, you touched on there in the second half, especially the Portadown away support made a bit of a racket. Matthew Tipton adhered to that in his post-match interview, and it was in the papers as well. Was really wanting to big up a good atmosphere at Shamrock Park as well. I suppose it's a rallying cry to all Portadown fans. But Stephen, I'm going to bring in this one because Coleraine have managed to, they've always had a good support, but this season, particularly, with the new pitch and all up there, it seemed to be a great raucous crowd up there the other week there, for your home games, and it's something that Portadown could look to replicate, hopefully.
Yeah, definitely. The news came out this week that they've sold over 1,000 season tickets, which is the first time ever in history. Which is amazing. We think if we're guaranteed at least 1,000 at every home game, and then everybody else on top of that, it's a great starting point. Obviously, when a team's going well, you will get the support. But I think this season has captured the imagination of a lot of people with a new pitch and a few improvements around the ground. And I would say there'll be a big crowd there again for Portadown on Saturday. Hopefully, there's a big travelling support as well. I know against Warren Point it was nearly 1,500 people. And there was one ticket sold for the away end, so there was the vast majority was in the Coleraine fans. So it's a decent crowd because obviously. Sometimes you play the likes of Warren Point, people go, I'll do something else today, or I'll not bother going, So the team needs the support, as Tippy says, if you've got a good vociferous crowd behind you, it gives you that extra 10% to go on, and I think that's what got Portadown the point in the end and on Saturday, going by what Tippy says.
What I think we missed too, yes, one of the biggest things is if you're in the top half of the table and you're pushing at the top, like we have we probably have 400 diehards at the minute, but if we were pushing or if we go on a good cup run and that kind of thing, that does bring the guys back who maybe were previous diehards or who go sometimes and all that kind of stuff. And that does build momentum. One of the difficulties I think we have at Shamrock Park is a lot of people just miss the old shed where you're just crammed in, our home stand there holds 1,800. So even if you, on a good day, have 600 home fans, see when you look at it in the highlights and stuff, it looks so spread out, and atmosphere, our home crowd doesn't tend to sing unless maybe Glentoran or Glenavon are in town, and it's that like proper, they're there to prove that they can out-sing the away fans, but it's on a normal home match, we don't really tend to sing an awful lot. And I think part of that is just they're so spread out in the stand, so yeah, hopefully if we start climbing the table, you get a few more in and the atmosphere just slowly builds again. And with winning 2 matches here not winning 2 matches, but an away draw and a home win there, it creates a wee bit of momentum as well. And August, September, into October as well. I sort of think when it gets into November, December, January, February, and people aren't maybe doing other things on a Saturday as well, the crowd comes back to the football a wee bit, and then you sort of get the excitement, in a few weeks leading up to Boxing Day and all of that, and it can bring a few more in. But I think the number one thing is if you're winning matches and you're playing well and scoring goals, people do want to come and watch, But I'm looking forward to a wee trip to the North Coast on Saturday.
No, it should be good. Like, as I say, hopefully he's have a decent crowd up there. And we're just looking at the games last year. I think bar the game at Shamrock Park at the start of the season, the other 2 games were fairly tight affairs. And I think he's put on a good display.
Yeah, I think we drew draw 2 each. Adam Sally scored the equaliser and got sent off, I think. And I think maybe narrowly beat us up there again.
There's the 2 penalties with Greg Hall.
Yeah, that was near the end of the season.
So I said a bad word there.
I'm just sort of laughing. Just one of the funniest memories I ever have of playing Coleraine up there was, I can't remember what the person's name was. I just remember he had obviously had far too much to think on the bus journey up. And they didn't want to leave him on the bus. You might remember this, Dave. I was like a bit younger at the time, but I just remember this guy, and he was carried off the bus, but was so drunk. They didn't want to leave him on the bus, so they brought him into the ground, but just set him down on the step behind the ground. I just laying flat on his back, and Stuart just like, he's all right, just leave him there. He missed the whole game. I just always remember that.
Do you remember one of my favourite Coleraine, although it's at Shamrock Park, whenever Sky first were showing a couple of Irish League matches, Portadown played Coleraine one night live on Sky. O'Hare was the goalkeeper, right? And I was living in London at the time, so the boys I worked with and all, I was like, oh, my team are live on Sky. Then I went to the pub and had a few drinks and all that. I think, do you remember O'Hare? He came dribbling out to near the halfway line, dipped the shoulder, did it like a step over, and then somebody just took it off and then stuck it in the top corner.
He passed it straight to Alan Taggart and he just whacked it straight in.
I think David just got fed up that night and just thought, I saw this, I'm going up front.
I'll have a go myself. But no, I think we should. It's obviously it's a long bus journey, but if you want a bit of crack, it's a good bus journey, and we're heading up that way tomorrow until Sunday night anyway, so it was a nice wee excuse to. I've made sure I've told you now at 2:00 on Saturday afternoon we're getting dropped into Coleraine. You know that now. That's all sorted. Yeah.
We'll touch.
In fact, I must say actually though, I was up that way last Monday, Tuesday, and I went and watched your under-20s against Linfield under-20s. Which was decent. Like your under-20s were like 4-0 up in the first half, and I mean,
there's some promising players coming through as well.
I think the Coleraine team was maybe slightly older than the Linfield team. To be fair, and it's obviously good ground for all those guys. But I I'm going to leave it for the good. I'll leave it for a good story, Neil. I was gonna give all my good stories out there, but I need to keep something for the good, bad, and ugly.
We'll touch on the Coleraine game a bit more in a few minutes here, because last night, so this is being recorded on Wednesday night. Last night on Tuesday down at Shamrock Park, we defeated Ballymallard 1-0. And we're through to the quarter final of the League Cup, where we'll face Cliftonville.
Easy.
The score somewhat flattered Ballymallard. I thought the Ballymallard goalkeeper was like peak David Seaman. He was absolutely unbelievable. So
really was.
He made save after save after save. It's easily man of the match, but at the end of the day, we're in the hat. Stephen, the League Cup this season, obviously it wasn't on the go last season. Usually the defending champions. So you're the Glens in the next round. Isn't it the Glens? Yeah.
Yeah, Glens, yeah.
Yeah. We will face Cliftonville. Do you think it's the League Cup's a good opportunity, for provincial clubs to really have a good rattle at winning the trophy this season?
Yeah, I always enjoyed the League Cup, because obviously midweek games played under lights. There's a wee bit more atmosphere. I think that once you get by the first couple of rounds, and it's you're always going to get a big draw somewhere along the line. Like obviously, Tippy was using that as I think motivation before the game, saying that he knew you were going to get a home quarter final draw. So that was the sort of carrot he was dangling in front of the boys. So getting through last night was all the most important thing, and where it's 1-0 or 5-0 or whatever. So you're at home. So I think if he's played the way he's have been playing, he'll definitely give Cliftonville a game. Like you look at Ballymena, did them on Saturday, so, and I think these are probably in a bit better form than what Ballymena are at the moment.
Dave, what were your thoughts on the game last night then? Just happy enough to get through more than anything? Felt a bit of momentum.
Fair play to you and the boys for coming down from Carrickfergus on a Tuesday night to watch Portadown against Ballymallard for one thing. Like that's keynotes, I know. I tell you what, it was. I mean, we should have. I was actually quite. I mean, no disrespect, Ballymallard are a very good football club, and in the championship, they pushed us all the way and got the better of us most times. And I think I don't know if we've maybe. I'm hoping that we've stepped up a gear, and they're maybe just not quite as strong as they have been over the last couple of years. They didn't really. The one guy up front who was really quick, and I just didn't feel they had the cutting edge there really at all until the 94th minute. They went right through, lobbed the keeper, and I swear I thought it was dropping in, and it just dropped on top of the goal, and that would have summed the night up really, with loads of chances, and I think that was a reserve goalkeeper. He's 18, 19, and he had the game of his life, really, I think. And there's maybe a little bit of that, when you come up against a team who are perceived as better than you, I think there is something about that where you can play 10% better than you might usually do. But if he's going to play like that every week, I think some teams in the Irish League should be having a wee look at him for sure. Number 7, who played right back for Ballymallard, he was kind of short, but he was really competent and really confident and on the ball as well. But overall, listen, you're in the quarter final of the League Cup, and I was sort of Levi, my son's 10 now, so he's got a million football questions. But he's like, is the League Cup better than the Irish Cup, and which one's like the FA Cup, and all those questions. And we're not going to win the league this year. Might have a chance to win the Irish Cup, but when you're sitting in the quarter final of the League Cup there, it's potentially a trophy being dangled in front of your nose, and that's the last trophy we won, Neil, isn't that right? 2009 maybe?
Yeah.
So
not including the championship, but yeah, 2000.
Yeah, we're not including the championship. And it's a long time ago, and you just don't know. There's, obviously if we come up against Glentoran or Coleraine, but you could go into the quarter, if you happen to do really well and beat Cliftonville, you could go into a semi-final against who? Are Dungannon playing Limavady? Did I see that? Is that a match? No?
Yeah. And then
Limavaddy's through because of Larne. Your friends at Lauren.
I'm okay. I'm softening towards my aggression towards other clubs now since I've put the cardigan on, you know. And yes, no. So I was going to say, since Lauren touted on themselves and then expected the decision to be overturned. But yeah, it's just that if the draw opens up for you, you could find yourself in a final. And for a club like us rebuilding and moving forward, to be in a cup final of any description would be just class. And even when you talk about fans coming back to Shamrock Park, that's the sort of stuff, that's the sort of thing that does it. And I just think you're in with a chance. Like whenever we did win the League Cup the last time, we were in the Championship and we beat Cliftonville, Glentoran and Linfield on the way to the final. So it can be done. Just takes a bit of belief and a bit of effort. When is that match? Couple of weeks on a Tuesday night.
Yeah, so we play.
We'll be sick looking at Cliftonville, won't we?
I know, we'll play Cliftonville 2 Tuesdays on the spin. So one's at Solitude
away and home.
We'll talk about that soon here. And then the other one is at home, obviously, the following week. So before we'll talk more about the Coleraine game coming up this weekend here. But before I get into that, we'll do the good, the bad, and the ugly. So do you know what, Stephen? You can go first this week. Dave can go second.
I'm under pressure here. Probably a good is probably the job that Kenny Seals has done with the Northern Ireland women's team since he's come in. I know they got beat 4-0 away at England on Saturday night, but I think up until the first goal, and they were magnificent. And even there last night against Austria, they were very unfortunate to concede the equaliser. So I think he deserves a lot of credit, having this coaching team and all the players, how they've turned things around, and they look a real force now going forward. I think the draw for the European Championships is tomorrow, so we'll go into that with a lot of confidence.
Are they knocking on the door of World Cup finals? Is that what's happening with the ladies team?
Yeah, well, they're through the European Championship finals after their playoff victory there a few months ago. That's and then right. This is their World Cup qualifying, but they'll find out their draw tomorrow for the championships. So it's uncharted territory for them, but they'll go there and I'm sure they'll enjoy it. Like, it's a fantastic experience for them. And
where is that tournament?
I think that's in England, actually.
Oh,
it's been put off. Obviously, it was meant to be this previous year, but because of COVID and stuff like that, it's put off. So fair play to Kenny. It shows you his managerial ability and his coaching ability. He's done another great job there. In terms of the bad, I don't know if he's watched the Lauren Linfield encounter in Sky the other night.
Hold on, let's turn the lights off here for a wee second.
I thought the game was a bit underwhelming up until the last 10 minutes, but at the very end, I would just like to say fair play to Graham Little for he was trying to conduct an interview and he was getting dogs abuse. So that was probably the bad side of things. There was more effing and jeffing, but there was no apologies. Fair enough. Graham mustn't have heard the language that was going on behind him. But that was probably the high point of the whole game, to be fair. And the ugly hasn't happened yet, but our groundsman at Coleraine is a massive Man United supporter, so I'm looking forward to bumping into him on Saturday. I'll just remind him what happened at Old Trafford last week. Could get a bit ugly, you know.
Yeah. Oh, you've just reminded me about what my good was, because I'd forgotten what it was, but it was to do with Coleraine. So very good. You can give him a bit of slagging then.
Well,
you want me to go next, Neil?
Oh, yeah.
All right. So earlier on, I was saying for my sins, I went to watch Coleraine under-20s against Linfield under-20s. And there might have been about 50 people in the stand, you know, and so Coleraine scored their first goal. And I was really surprised because the guy had read out the team sheets and all at the start of the match, and you wouldn't really usually get that in an under-20s match. And so anyway, Coleraine scored the first goal. 3 seconds later, Tannoy, full blast. Since I was young, I followed them. And loud, really loud. So the Linfield manager turned round, looked up at him, and just went, right. So the second goal went in for Coleraine. And the Linfield manager literally turned round to him and went like this. 5 seconds later, since I was young. But he had definitely turned it up a couple of notches. Like, yeah, it was great. It gave me a good laugh. Like, you know. The bad, I think Lee Bonus landing on his shoulder after scoring the equaliser at the Oval, for sure. And the ugly, I think Ian Dowie was at the Lauren Linfield match, wasn't he, the other night?
Harsh.
Listen, respect. He was Northern Ireland's leading goal scorer for a long time before David Healy came along. But
yeah, Robbie Savage was there too for some.
Saw that. Robbie's pretty though. You couldn't call him. So I heard Kenny Bruce flew 18 people over from England to watch that match, like as special guests. You know.
Did you see his tweet?
No, go on ahead.
He was tweeting about how Linfield were celebrating getting a last-minute equaliser against Wee Larne. And Roy McGovern, the Linfield chairman, took a bite back at him. But
did he?
So all good banter, like, you know what I mean. So.
Aye, very good. It's a wee bit more. I don't know. Maybe it's the future of Irish League football. I don't know. I just sense like it's a wee bit too much. But there you go. Anyway, listen, Robbie Savage I have a photograph of me and Robbie Savage at Shamrock Park when he played for Leicester. So he came to Shamrock.
Friendly.
He in fact I had well, I didn't. I sold it on eBay, but at halftime, Jerry Taggart came back out. He played the first half and he came out for the second half. 5 minutes later, like, he just sweating buckets. He was hungover, like, and I heard him on a podcast talking about this once. So it was the old stand when he went off. I went down the tunnel and got the shirt off him, you know. And I remember putting it in, you know, one of them brown bags you get at the chippy. I just rolled it up and the chippy gave me it and I put it in, and the whole thing was just saturated, you know. Stan Collymore as well. So here, Kenny Bruce, Robbie Savage was at Shamrock Park 10 years ago. So step it up. Like.
Dave, it was more than 10 years ago.
The only thing is, if we turned our lights off at the start of the match, it might take about 15 minutes to turn them back on.
That game was 20 years ago. More than. Yeah.
I was a teenager.
I guess I was
10 years ago, man.
Steve Walsh was playing, and I remember
Tony Cotty was playing too.
He was signing autographs, and I remember saying to him, "Here was a nice own goal you scored against Arsenal," and he just gave me absolute daggers. And he was not happy. Like, I was like,
he loved it.
Yeah. Do you know what? Seeing that you're talking about chippies there, I'm going for the bad first. I was not happy there was no chippy van at the match against Ballymena last night, and I wasn't the only one.
The Oval as well. The Oval just have a wee shed now where they're selling pot noodles.
well, I was more concerned with our own, you know, because I love our cheesy chips, but unfortunately, no. And even the chippy across the road wasn't open at halftime. I was like, what's going on here? So the Spar was packed out, people getting sandwiches and all sorts. So
the one across the road, I think, closes at 8 o'clock or 8:30 on a weeknight. Like, but I know, where's Billy? I hope I'm sure he probably just maybe didn't think it was going to be worth his while or something. But sounds like it would have been.
It would have been. I was flipping starving. Anyway, that's the bad. The good. Do you know what? The good will say, I've said before, going to the Oval, it's my favourite away game. It always has been. I always think, you know, the old, because it is falling apart, but I think that's sort of like the beauty of it. Like, and you've got the old stand and stuff, you know, and it's quite tall and it's not wide. So it's quite imposing and stuff. I've always thought that. And it was just great being back there properly, you know, as a fan and stuff, and being able to support Portadown there. So that was good. And obviously it was even better that they got a result. And then, do you know what? The ugly. I would have said Lee Bonus hitting the shoulder, but the ugly, I don't know.
It wasn't Paul Finnegan's attempt at an overhead kick shot last night.
Oh dear.
It wasn't a bad shot, actually, on another day.
I'm trying to think of something ugly, but do you know what? I'll get back to it. We'll continue on, and I'll get back to it. I know that's a cop out, like, but I had you stole the Lee Bonus thing on me, but we'll get back to it. So Saturday here, Coleraine, who are doing really, really well. Stephen, a few people writ them off at the start of the season. Not saying you did, obviously, but
Stephen was bigging them up. He said they were going to win the league. I heard him.
We're European Cup, I said.
You know what? A few people writ them off at the start of the season because they lost late on to Larne, and then they lost late on again to Cliftonville in their second game of the season. But since then, you know, they've been riding the crest of a wave, and they've just just gradually rising up the table. What have you made of Coleraine so far? It's just, I think they're a fantastic side.
I think it's just another typical Oran Kearney season where Colerane's always been a momentum team under Oran. Maybe had a couple of results, but it's never sort of went further than that. And then once they get one, they build on it, and they build on it. So they haven't lost since that game against Cliftonville at the end of August. I think people sort of maybe were worried when Ben Doherty left. Obviously, he's been a big player for us the last couple of seasons. But young Conor McHenry's come in and he's been excellent. I think he's thriving and playing regular football. He's playing with a smile on his face, and he's a typical winger, just wants to go and beat men, and he's not afraid to have a pot shot. And I think he's just enjoying playing football now, so he is. But also, I think the big benefit of the season is Matthew Shevlin scoring. That was his 10th goal of the season on Saturday, which is fantastic. We're not even at the end of October yet. Another guy I think is benefiting massively from playing regular football, and he's in 10, as I say, and last season our two strikers top scored it with 10 for the whole season, so it's a massive improvement. But wee question for you is, when did you think Matthew Shevlin made his debut in the Irish League? What year?
Ooh. This is going to be something mad. Like he's
22 at the minute, so
I'm going to say 2015.
I was thinking like 2017, but he
nearly had it. 2014.
Ooh.
Which is ridiculous when you think he's 22. I'd say 2014 sounds like it's ages ago, but he's a boy full of confidence at the minute, and he's great work ethic, and he's getting the goals now as a reward of that. So I think the team's just gelling nicely, and long may it continue. I think, as you said, a lot of people thought maybe Coleraine wouldn't be up and about it this season with the likes of Larne and the Glens and Linfield spending a lot of money, but I think they're just happy enough going under the radar and people not talking them up too much.
I'm going to be honest with you. You're talking about Matthew Shevlin there. He was actually my fantasy football captain last weekend.
Happy days. Double.
He will not be my captain this weekend.
And fair play to him. Curtis Allen's injured, isn't he? There and
Curtis and James McLaughlin have both been injured for the last few weeks. So him and Skinner and Cahir Freed have sort of been sharing the striking duties there.
I forgot about Freed. There's an abundance of strikers up there too, isn't there? I know one or two of them are coming to the end of their, not the tail end, but they're sort of heading that way, aren't they? And 10 goals, I didn't realise that. That's very good. He's never quite, I don't think he's ever fully settled properly, regularly in any team, and he's obviously doing that now, and fair play to the lad. So he's 22, is he?
22, yeah. So I think it just turned 15 when he got into the Ballymena side at that stage, and I remember Celtic and Crystal Palace were two of the clubs that were looking at him, but for one reason it didn't work out. And then obviously one day Linfield again, it didn't really work out for him. But he's got his opportunity now at Coleraine. Warren always uses the phrase that people don't play regularly, he'll sicken them with the amount of football he'll give them, I think. So they're getting that. I think Gareth Dean's the same. Like he obviously was in and out the Linfield side, playing regularly now for Coleraine, and I think he's up there with one of the top keepers in the Irish League. He's shown what his ability is about, so I think it's Oran been shrewd in the transfer market as well, because there are players out there, and it's just taking a punt on them.
Yeah.
Gareth Dean is also my goalkeeper in my fantasy team.
Do you support the Bondsiders, man?
He's got you a fair amount of clean sheets this season, I would say.
He has. When you're talking about Conor McHenry there, at the game they played against Crusaders, which was live on Sky there a few weeks ago, he was absolutely magnificent in that game. And at the start of this, like whenever the transfer was made from Ben Doherty going from Coleraine to Larne, I think it raised a few eyebrows, because I don't know many Coleraine fans, but there were quite a few disappointed that he was being allowed to go to an arch rival, so to speak, who will be pushing for trophies as well. Not the League Cup anyway. And people were a bit dismayed by that, but Oran Kearney obviously thought, there's a bit of a diamond here, maybe a bit rough around the edges, but he could maybe make something of it. And here he's repaying him there. And do you know what? At the minute, it looks like Coleraine got a heck of a lot of money for Ben Doherty, plus a rising star. I mean, it looks like an absolute barnstorm of a deal for Coleraine.
Yeah, it certainly has paying dividends at the minute, and I think Oran has spoke a lot to Lyndon Kane about Conor, because he played a couple of games towards the end of last season. He played against London. They give him a real tough time, because he's quick and pacey, and Lyndon's, wouldn't be no slow coach himself, so it was a good guy to gauge how you felt like playing against Connor. But look, when a player wants to leave, as such, I think the club just has to try and get the best deal they can for him. And obviously, Oran thought that Connor coming in would be a more than adequate replacement, and so far it's bore dividends.
Yeah. Would you? Well, I'll not put you in the spot for a score prediction, but like Coleraine, I think a lot of people would have to fancy Coleraine on Saturday here against Portadown. Obviously, we're polar opposite ends of the table. Like Dave said earlier on, like from a Portadown perspective, after getting a good result last weekend and progressing the cup, there's no reason to go up there. With essentially nothing to lose because nobody's given us a chance in hell. Like so, but you would have to say Coleraine will definitely be the favourites going into that.
Yeah, I think if you go on form, like you would say, Coleraine are definitely top favourites for it. But as we all know, you just can't. In every season you can't predict anything. But Warren's speaking after the Warren Point game. He says he was determined to not let the players think about league position going into that game because it doesn't matter where you're playing the team at the bottom of the league or playing the team. You're always going to be put through the mill a bit. So I'd say he'll be very focused this week and say that Portadown won the Oval, got a draw. You can't relax. And even the games last year, as I was saying earlier, Portadown give Coleraine a real tough test in the 2 home games. So he'll be expecting a real battle, so he will. And I know what Tippy's boys will be. He'll have him wired up for it, and Tippy will love nothing better to go to the showgrounds and get a draw or a win, and really upset that one part.
I'm absolutely loving our new style of play, by the way, which just seems to be 4-4-2. Let's try and batter the opposition into submission, and it's great. I'd far rather watch that than, I'm not. Well, you could say a Larne or Glentoran passing it side to side, waiting for the switch or the crossfield ball or whatever. I know it's effective for them because they get to practice it all day, every day. But for me, the Irish League still 4-4-2. Let's try it. Who's got the better 11 players? Who's going to batter each other? Who's going to get the better of their individual opponent? And I think when we go to the showgrounds here, it's individual battles as well as anything else. And I think our South African goalkeeper Jethro Barr, I think he's now starting to settle and grow into the league, and he's sort of commanding his box there. He's coming for things, and he's making good decisions. And defense is a bit chop and change because of injuries and sendings off and all that kind of thing, but they're doing a good job there. So it kind of depends on the creativity of the boys in the middle and maybe just putting pressure on up front. Looking forward to it anyway.
Well, once the Coleraine game is in the distant memory, we'll be facing Cliftonville next Tuesday night at Solitude. Dave, again, Cliftonville hasn't been a happy hunting ground for Portadown in recent years. Well, we haven't really played there many times in recent years, but you know what I mean. The last sort of few visits been there, it hasn't been we haven't got many points there, so to speak. They're obviously riding high. They're top of the league at the minute. They lost to Ballymena, but a couple of results have still went their way. They're still up there. What have you made of Cliftonville so far?
Yeah, I've been very surprised. I think they're just, you expect them to be in the top half of the table and to be fairly solid and to do well in plenty of matches, but they really are. Well, if you listen to their fans, give it another month or two and their season will fall apart a wee bit as usual, but you just never know. If you can keep that momentum going and you can keep your squad free of injuries and discipline's good and there's a real togetherness, you can just push on. I hate going to Solitude, it's not a happy hunting ground for us over the last while, but I think I'm getting to the stage in my head where I don't care about any of that stuff anymore. I think coming into this season, you've drawn the line. We've talked about all those things. It's a new season. We've been to the Oval and got a draw. We've got a win away at Warren Point. There's all that stuff going on. Things can happen on any day or any night. You can get a result, but again, Cliftonville will be expecting to win that match. It's a home match on their own 4G pitch, and they'll have a big crowd behind them. Again, lights on a Tuesday night, it'll be good and it'll be a decent atmosphere. Excuse me. But again, what's to lose? You just go out and do your best, and you try and get as many goals as you can, and hope that you don't concede and see what happens. And I've said it numerous times. That's why we watch football. If football was predictable and you knew who was going to beat who every week, there'd be no point in having matches, and there'd be no point in having the league table, because you would just go Linfield. You would just line it up every season. So it's unpredictable. Anything can happen if somebody has an off night. We're sort of back in that stage of Saturday, Tuesday, like it was last season, and I think that does no harm either for momentum if you are getting results, So, I could see us picking up another couple of points over the next week. I would like to think you could pick up 1 point out of 6 anyway. But who knows what might happen. Maybe you get 3 points in one of the matches, and maybe you win one and lose one. So, we'll see. There's players in our team there who are really starting to find their groove this season, I think Chris Lavery and Adam Sally have started now. They maybe started 3 matches in a row. Yeah. Both working hard, looking good, looking sharp.
I said that to my dad last night, actually, about Chris Lavery. Said he's really sharp.
He's had a few injury things in the last few seasons, but he's looking good there. The starting midfield partnership looks like it's happening, and obviously the boys up front are doing their best to just hunt down the defenders and the goalkeeper and try and feed off mistakes and scraps and put the other team under pressure. So who knows? Looking forward to 2 matches anyway. 2 away matches. It's all good.
Stephen, what have you made of Cliftonville so far this season? A bit of a surprise package.
Yeah, I think, again, Paddy's been very cute, and the players he's brought in, like Johnny Addis, maybe wasn't going to turn a lot of people's heads, but I think he's become a really important player for Cliftonville at the back.
They're definitely all, their fans are all raving about him. Like,
yeah, I'm surprised that Ballymena didn't want to keep the likes of him. Maybe they couldn't keep him, I don't know, but to me, he's performed really well. Jimmy McDonough is another one, and Chris Gallagher in the middle of the park, two guys that never really got the light that's shone on them at the Glens, and they're doing it now for Cliftonville. And when you have people like Joe Gormley and Paul O'Neill and Ryan Kern up front, you're always going to score goals. So, as I spoke before in another podcast, the problem he likes at Cliftonville and maybe Coleraine as well is if we get injuries to key players, we don't have that big squad like the likes of the Glens or Larne or Linfield have to come in. So that could be the only downside is in terms of a title challenge. But if they can stay clear of injuries, I definitely think they'll go far. The big guy in net, Declan Dunn, looks to be a big imposing goalkeeper. So I know against recently against the Glens, he was coming out and lifting everything. So as you as a defender, you always like that, and I think they've just got the right balance and right through the squad at the minute. He
was our goalkeeper a few years ago.
He's obviously he was very young when he was with us, but he definitely had. I thought at the end of the season when he was finished with us, he was going across the water, but I think that maybe just didn't quite happen for him. So he's obviously back and just working hard at Cliftonville, and and just he's got a bit older, and probably decision making and all of that comes with that age, doesn't it? And fair play.
I always think with Cliftonville that like they always have sort of like every season there'll be somebody breaks into their team. A young player comes through and like Dunn, he's the keeper. I don't think many people expected him to be playing for them this season, and he's came in and done really, really well for them. Like you say, Dave, he's kicked on, since we had him. He finished the 18-19 season, so that's going over 2 years ago now. So yeah, he's it's
the beauty of being a Belfast-based club, isn't it? Like you just have that, like Colin Coates, for example, for him to sign for Cliftonville, I was just like, flip me. But it's obviously like, well, there's a team in Belfast offering me half decent money or whatever, even though they were his, greatest rivals really all down through those years. So
I think that is a difficulty with provincial clubs like ourselves, even though you're not that far out of the city, like we're only an hour, it's different there, but getting people to travel that wee bit of a distance 2 or 3 times a week, unless you're paying them big money, it's very, very difficult.
But it all comes back to that standard small time Northern Ireland mentality where it's just like,
too far.
I have to travel down to Lurgan for an away game. It's 20 minutes on the motorway from Belfast.
Yeah,
it's true. We always talk about it. In any other city in the world, Portadown would be Greater Belfast, like,
yeah.
you know what I mean? So, you get the train in 25 minutes and half an hour in the car or whatever. So, but it at the end of the day, it is, we're a small island and a small country, and we do have that, like, to sign a player from Derry City, or to think about, like, for me, thinking about Ben Doherty coming from Donegal to train or whatever, I'm just like, would you like?
What do you think Tony Gorman, when he signed for you before he came out, like, coming from Letterkenny, they Portadown? Now, that was a trek back in the day, like,
No. I think all those boys, like, I think there was 3 or 4 of them met down the left-hand side of the lock somewhere, Macara or somewhere like that, So, but to be doing that twice a week and at the weekend as well is, I think it takes some going. But if you're from Belfast, I think you have the pick of everybody around Belfast. I think they'll always look to the Belfast club to sign before they might move a little bit further away.
Well, here, I've just got my idea for ugly when you're saying they're about Belfast clubs. So I'm going to span back to
all of them, all the Belfast clubs, all their supporters, all their.
Well, it's funny. This is what it is. It is supporters. There was a shot last week of after when the Glentoran players are coming off and they were getting booed, and McDermott was getting jostled and stuff, but it was just that freeze frame of just the Glens fans, and they're giving it stacks, and there's just quite a few ugly faces in the crowd. So yeah, there you go.
We'll never be allowed back in the Oval again.
On. So yes, listen, I think we'll wrap it up there on that cheery note, and fingers crossed we'll get 2 Portadown victories here in the next. Stephen, thank you once again for coming on the show, and we really appreciate taking the time to talk this here, and hope you don't enjoy the game on Saturday.
Thanks very much. No, always a pleasure to get a chat with you guys, and hopefully maybe catch up with you on Saturday.
Yes, hopefully see you on Saturday. I'll dander around that way at some stage. Venture into the away end,
Well, Dave, as always, thank you very much as well. It's been
my pleasure. Good to see you. It's good to be back this week.
Once again, I'd just like to say to everyone, to our regular listeners and viewers, thank you very much for your continued support. And as always, you can like and subscribe to the We Are Reports TV YouTube channel, and this is also available on Spotify as well. And stay tuned. Keep your eyes peeled. There's a few videos coming out on YouTube by the brilliant Richard Jamison, who was doing another behind the scenes video last night at the Ballymara game. So keep your eyes peeled for those. And we'll leave it at that. Come on, Portadown. Cheers, guys.
See you next time.